What's up, everyone? Welcome into the All 22 NFL show, the official channel of the All 22 fantasy football platform. It's the only fantasy football game with full 53-man rosters, including offensive linemen, where you get to choose personnel packages and have access to PFF grading and advanced stats to make decisions each week. To learn more, go to all-22.com. And, we're still asking, go sign up because there are leagues where you can get in and play. If you're unsure of how to do that, you can reach out to us at info@all-22.com, and we will direct you on where to go to do that. Ray, it was another great week of football in the NFL for most people. If you're a Packers fan like me, it was actually brutal and heartbreaking. But I knew it. I knew the Browns were going to be the team this year whose defense is just so good that even though they have zero offense, they're just going to make everybody's lives a living hell. And that's what they did to my Packers this weekend, man. How are you, though?
I'm doing great. Don't the Packers always lose to the Browns early in the season? Didn't that happen one of the Rodgers years? They got blown out in week one. Isn't that just a thing that they do? They lose to the Browns early in the year. It's just a thing.
I only look towards the future, Ray.
Okay. That makes sense since you're 0-3 in the inaugural league.
I'm only looking towards the future, Ray. Mm-hmm. Listen, 3 championships in 4 years, bro. I get to start 0-3.
Nobody cares. Right? Nobody cares. All right, buddy. The intro.
All right. Well, I think what we're talking about today is just checking in on some of the rookie performances to see what this young season has looked out like for many of them. And I thought it might make sense to start off with kind of somebody that's struggling a little bit, and that's Cam Ward. Okay. So Cam Ward is a prospect that both of us liked pretty highly, right? Like we both thought a lot of this guy. If you're not familiar with Cam Ward's game, he's really just kind of like a big armed quarterback that can move the pocket just about as good as anybody else in the league. Not like a super, quick runner or anything like that. Just really relies on his arm more than his legs. And he was drafted 1 overall to the Titans. And you and I we've had several conversations just about how the Titans situation was going to make anybody's life hard, especially this year with kind of the ragtag team that they've put together, especially on offense with the receivers, the offensive line. It just hasn't been great, right? They haven't done a lot to make it better. So while Cam Ward with his 56.9 passing grade has struggled, only 2 big time throws. If you've watched ESPN at all, I'm sure you've seen both. They were awesome. One, basically what they tell quarterbacks not to do, across his body, across the field into the end zone. And then 2 turnover-worthy plays, an 8.0 ADOT and a 3.03 time to throw. So the numbers just aren't terrible, but I think what they really point out is just there really hasn't been anything special that's been done by Cam Ward this year. But I want to point out something for those people that are starting to panic, because you and I both said, do not panic on Cam Ward in year 1. It's going to take year 2 or year 3 before this really comes together because of that offense. The Titans have the 3rd lowest receiving grade. Their pass blocking grade is a 52.8 as a team, and they have a 51.5 run blocking game. So even if you're like, the passing game's not working, let's rely on the run game. No, the offensive line is bad at both. It has been atrocious, and they really don't have weapons for Cam Ward to throw to. So again, I am not panicking at all about Cam Ward, but I wanted to point out that, this is somebody that we still have a lot of faith in. You just got to kind of play the long game with him.
Well, just to pile on, the Titans or Cam Ward, his receivers, his targets have a 10% drop rate, which is 4th highest in the entire league. So even if he is overcoming poor protection and the lack of a running game, he now has to deal with the dropsies from his target. So that doesn't help matters either. Certainly aren't panicking. It's way too early to panic on any of this stuff. However, I think as we've seen from some of the other sort of revitalized quarterbacks in the league today, Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold is the highest graded quarterback in the league through 3 weeks right now. So I'm going to take another victory lap on that one yet again, because, I like to look in the past sometimes, Chris. But in general, just the point being that organizations matter and landing spots matter. And we knew this wasn't a good landing spot for Cam Ward. So I'm not panicking about Cam Ward, but I certainly really need to see this situation get better this coming offseason. This can't be one where it takes 3 years for the Titans roster around him to get right, to sort of age out bad receivers and get some new, young, exciting weapons for Cam Ward to work with, because by that time you might be looking at coaching changes. It might be the damage might already be done from being behind a poor offensive line for such a long time, relatively speaking, of course, in the NFL, that like we've seen with other talented quarterbacks, it just doesn't work out, and he might have to go elsewhere and become another reclamation project. Obviously, I'm going 4 steps ahead here because, like I just said, I'm not panicking about Cam Ward, but he's certainly not starter material for 2025, given the current situation. And if you're someone who has him in all 22, you probably invested pretty highly in him. And now it's time to have the onus and the sort of focus put on the organization again to make things right around Cam Ward. The sooner the better. You can't wait with this, because even with elite quarterbacks, we talked about it last week, it could even impact guys as good as Joe Burrow, and you don't want that to happen. So yes, put the microscope on the Titans organization as a whole. They have to get things around Cam Ward better, because he's trying to make things happen. And when he is overcoming poor blocking, he now has to deal with drops as well. And that's not a recipe for success for anybody.
I wasn't going to stick with struggles, but since you went into offensive line, I think somebody to point out is Jonah Savaiinaea on the Dolphins left guard, starting left guard. 28.7 offensive grade, a 45.4 run blocking grade, and a 5.3 pass blocking grade. We've talked about how quarterbacks need protection. You just did it. We've talked about how if the Dolphins didn't get Tua some help, we were really concerned with not just his physical game, but also like the health of his body and just his ability to stay on the field at all, right? And stay in football at this point. You don't try to piecemeal it together. You don't take the easy road, and you don't go for a guy like Jonah Savaiinaea in the second round early and reach on a guy like that. So, I mean, again, it's just super frustrating when teams think that that is the answer. I would have loved Jonah Savaiinaea for other teams in the late third, early fourth round, where this is a piece you're plugging into an already good offensive line. But for you to rely on this piece as a cornerstone is exactly why teams ruin quarterbacks like the Dolphins are with Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah, we had our big board episode. I mean, you can go back and find it and watch it on YouTube, and you have the images of our big board. Savaiinaea was taken 37th overall, one of the top 5 picks in the second round, and neither of us had him in our top 50, I don't believe. So, again, just kind of goes to show a bit of the reach there. Now, when that happens, sometimes I have a bit of faith. Okay, this is typically an offensive line friendly system, or can be, even though the fit outwardly didn't seem to be there, because 6'5", 336 on the interior is not exactly the type of sort of movement athletic type that you would expect to see from a Mike McDaniel system. But you said, hey, they probably have a plan. I don't think the plan included 2 straight games of a 0 pass blocking grade. Okay. In the last 2 weeks, Savaiinaea has given up 9 hurries and 9 pressures in 2 weeks against the Patriots and the Bills. So 2 straight weeks of 0 pass blocking grades, and run blocking hasn't been any better. He hasn't eclipsed 60 in the run blocking game either. So also had a penalty in each of those games. So just really hasn't gotten the job done. And you could talk all you want about it. It's a young player, his first 3 games, but if there's questions about fit and really questions pretty much about everything going on in Miami right now, it's just another one of those, hey man, this might just be a fail fast, just an early obvious sort of miss here. That could be the case. If by week 6 this hasn't turned around, then yeah, this is just bad news all around.
Do you know what's funny, Ray? My number 1 note for him was not a guard. I just didn't even think he should play guard. I thought he should have been a tackle. And again, this is a swing tackle that you're going to use as a rotational guy if somebody gets injured, not he's your starting guard. So anyway, that is what we think of him. Going to, the positive side a little bit, right, before we jump into some other negatives. But Tyler Warren, I figured that's somebody you're going to want to talk about today. So I'll just throw out some numbers and then let you kind of run with it. But run blocking grade of a 72.3, pass blocking grade 79.1, receiving grade 74.2, 193 receiving yards, 45 snaps as an inline tight end, 27 in the slot, and then 14 out wide. It tells such an amazing story when you really do break down the numbers. But I'll let you wax poetic for a minute.
Yeah, it's just good vibes all around in Indy, and Warren just kind of we just talked about how in Miami just everything just seems to be going just completely haywire and nothing seems to work and nothing seems to make sense. You don't even know where to start. In Indianapolis, it's pretty much the exact opposite. Everything is just seeming to click. Everything is working. The vibes are great. And then you have, young rookie Warren here who can play in pretty much any situation, in line, in the backfield, out wide, even under center if you get, you get to it and kind of get to that part of the playbook. And it all just seems to fit. So it's just the exact opposite of what you're seeing from Miami right now, where everything is just seeming to work. And when you have a versatile player who's good at all that stuff and it's clicking like that, it really is a beauty to watch. Now, he didn't have his best game in week 3, particularly when it comes to the blocking game, but it wasn't by any means terrible. It's just probably what you expect from just sort of a typical up and down from a rookie. You're not going to, be sort of giving you Pro Bowl play every single week. But again, when everything else is just kind of working like a well-oiled machine in Indianapolis, you can overcome that. And that's just part of the growth process for a tight end, or a tight end who does a lot of things in particular, where we talk about how tight ends can typically take a long time to sort of hit their stride. Well, doubly so if you're asking him to also be in line, out wide, in the backfield, take snaps. So if he's taking that all in stride and you could just sort of absorb these like mini sort of, rookie speed bumps, if you will, that's just great. And so if Indy just keeps winning while that development process is still taking place, I mean, again, it's just sort of a double whammy on the positive side of the ledger for Indianapolis. So it's good for Tyler Warren. It's good for Daniel Jones. It's good for Jonathan Taylor. It's good for everybody on that Indy offense, which again, sort of has ripples to the defense as well, even if it's not necessarily an elite unit by any stretch.
Young rookie Warren just sounds like a jazz player from 1910. All right. Another tight end I thought it would be good to talk about because there are a lot of positive vibes around Harold Fannin Jr. as well. He has 15 receptions on the season, which leads all rookies, receivers, tight ends, running backs, everybody. 63.5 receiving grade, but only a 52.7 run blocking grade. 45 slot snaps, 12 out wide, and 39 in line. So kind of similar conversation where the Browns are truly using this guy as an absolute weapon, moving him all around the field. But we knew that this is more of a receiving tight end than somebody that's going to really be a true traditional inline tight end. So I think it's exciting. I think it's great the way they're using him, and it's definitely promising. Definitely not at the same level as Warren, but still, again, if you got him in your 6th or 7th round of a rookie draft, you probably feel pretty good about it right now.
Yeah, I'm curious about the fit moving forward and how they seem to work him in, because when you consider the Browns and the emergence of Quinshon Judkins, assuming he can keep himself on the field, they're probably going to continue to transition to a more sort of ground-heavy offensive philosophy overall, which doesn't necessarily tie into Harold Fannin's game, as we just discussed. He's more of sort of that out-wide slot slash player through the air. And so, how does that impact things as far as how much they can rely on him in the run blocking game if they're going to center their offense around that to try to shorten the game? You have a great defense. If you could limit those possessions and kind of lean on your defense, maybe get a turnover or 2 here or there that you could take advantage of. That's your formula to win games, as opposed to sort of, trying to go through the air and extend the game that way. Maybe that impacts Fannin Jr. just a little bit in the short term. But by all means, long-term, we know what he is. He's proving in the NFL that he's still effective at what he's good at, which is, again, the receiving game and being able to move around the formation and impact the game through the air. So, positive vibes there. That's a good thing. You're certainly going to keep him around. He's sort of proving your investment worthwhile. But I do wonder in the short term if there's going to be a little bit of either a dip or just some sort of, take some time to sort of get him to fit properly in that offense, because I do think they're going to transition a bit more to the ground game than they have been.
All right, let's move to receiver. There are 3 receivers that are doing as good or if not better than what we expected. it was kind of a middling receiver class. I wouldn't say it was a great one. There were some solid players, but Ted McMillan, Emeka Egbuka, and then I know Ayomanor all look very promising, right? And I'll start at the top of that list. The two guys, Tet and Egbuka. Tet, 73.9 receiving grade, 216 receiving yards, 14 receptions. Egbuka, 72.5 offensive grade, 14 receptions, 181 yards, and 3 touchdowns on top of that. I think last week we spoke about like, hey, like, I think if I was still choosing the future of one of these guys, it still would be Tet. After 3 weeks, do we feel the same way? Are we starting to kind of shift our prognosis at all? I think I'm still pretty much Tet first, even though it's getting closer and more narrow. I wonder how things change when Chris Godwin comes back, which might be this week. But at the same time, Mike Evans might have an injury, so his spot might open up. It might even show off more of the diverse skill set that Egbuka offers. Curious what you think.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens if Godwin doesn't come back and we have Egbuka in really the true top target role this week. Because I think Godwin is truly questionable, but I think just with the way the world works and the way the universe sort of had it play out, I do think Godwin is likely to come back. Given the loss of Evans, they slot him back in there and they can kind of play off of each other. I do think the fit is more natural when someone like Egbuka is opposite of Evans than Godwin, but they can make that work. The Bucs have a good offense, veteran quarterback. The ground game is, the offensive line is going to get healthier. The ground game is still effective, so they can make things happen there. I still think Tet's ceiling is higher, but Egbuka is probably going to give you more doubles than Tet does, but Tet might hit another couple home runs over the course of a season. You just don't know when exactly those are going to be. And Tet has already sort of asserted himself as the top target in his situation. Granted, he had much less traffic in front of him than Egbuka does. So maybe if Egbuka just kind of does get that chance, maybe he proves us wrong. But for now, I still think based on your needs and your philosophy, it's just a matter of what you feel more comfortable with, because I do think the ceiling for Tet is still a little bit higher, but you're probably going to get a higher batting average with Egbuka than you will McMillan.
Interesting take. I'm almost thinking maybe the opposite. So I think everybody is attracted to the touchdowns, right? But touchdowns are so hot and cold, hit or miss. It's very here today, gone tomorrow. That's one of the things that people are most excited about. And that's what they're seeing with Egbuka. And Tet hasn't scored any, right? So it's kind of like you're looking at both of them, and there's a bright spotlight right now on Egbuka. I wonder if that shifts if 3 weeks from now their touchdown totals are the same, right? Like, and how does that conversation start to shift? But anyway, something to definitely pay attention to. But also, again, you feel great if you have either of those guys on your team and you took those chances. But Ayomanor, right, as well, 67 offensive grade, 107 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's not fantastic, but he's a guy pre-draft that, I'll admit it, I was definitely wrong about. Looks much better than what I expected. He looked like maybe he wouldn't see the field to me. When I watched his college tape, I was like, I'm not sure this is a guy that's 53-man roster worthy in the NFL, not just in all 22. And he's proving more than that.
Chris, never admit you're wrong in week 3, especially when you can say, well, he had a major knee injury and, it just takes some time to come back from that. All right.
I'm not going to cop out.
Yeah, it's not a cop out if it's the truth. Come on now, throwing you a lifeboat here. But yeah, I still think there's going to be some struggles there overall, given that situation. So, I mean, the first 2 names we've discussed, I think in any format or situation, I'm still taking those names if I have the choice over Ayomanor. But he has had a couple solid outings, especially the last 2 weeks here for the Titans. And again, I think if the Titans as a whole could get their stuff together, we talked about how that'll help Cam Ward, but obviously that'll help Ayomanor as well as that big target that maybe Ward can lean on moving forward. So yeah, there's glimmers of excitement there, I guess you could say, but a 13.7 ADOT, that's fine. I like that as well. Just 1 drop so far. I like it, but I'm still not sure, over the long term, we've still got that same upside of those first 2 names, or even someone like Matthew Golden, who so far hasn't necessarily graded out as highly. But again, it's week 3, and these are, everyone's situation is different, so you don't make any sort of final judgments there. Ayomanor for me would be in that next tier below those other names.
All right, let's stay with the skill guys and go to maybe from strong performances to still like, I don't know what's happening, right? And it's the 2 running backs that went in the first round with Omarion Hampton and Ashton Jeanty. Both of them are kind of struggling, like in all honesty, right? When you've watched their games, neither of them look super comfortable yet. And these are guys that pre-draft, we were saying like these are top running backs in the scouting era that we've been a part of, which is like the last 7 years. Like these are guys that are at the top, right? Like these are not Saquon Barkley guys, but they're the tier after that, right? And maybe Jeanty more than Hampton, but still like very, very good prospects, and they don't look super comfortable. So I dug into the information a little bit more, and a couple funny things to point out, okay? So the Chargers have a 57 run blocking team grade, and the Raiders have a 54.2, both bottom 10 in the NFL. And honestly, I could stop there, and that's enough for you to say, no wonder they don't really feel comfortable. Like that's a terrible graded line to run behind. Let's go into yards after contact, right? So Omarion Hampton is averaging 2.9 yards after contact, which is low. You want to see him above 3, but it's not awful. And Jeanty is at 3.11, so a little bit better, but still not like fantastic, right? If you're seeing around 4, that's like you're a stud. But this is where it gets really interesting, okay? Omarion Hampton has 142 rushing yards on the season so far. 122 of those are after contact. Okay, he has 20 yards, basically a free yardage before contact. For Ashton Jeanty, he has 144 rushing yards. 146 of those are after contact. He has more yards after contact than total yards. That should tell you all you need to know about the situations for these 2 young running backs and why maybe we haven't seen the best of them yet.
Yeah, and a lot of people really like to focus on yards after contact as some sort of metric, or average yards after contact per carry. But when you get contacted matters. We've said this before. If you are able to get through the hole and you are first contacted, even just 2 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, as you're already rolling with a head of steam, and then you get contacted, that is a much higher level opportunity to make something happen than if you're getting hit in the backfield flat-footed and the defender has the head of steam on you and you have nowhere to go. So you could play this back 5 years ago when we're talking about someone like Saquon Barkley, who his yards after contact wasn't spectacular compared to other running backs because he was getting contacted with no opportunity to make anything happen at that point. So when you see, that's why I like sort of the comparison you did there about total yards after contact versus total yardage, because that paints a little bit more of a complete picture when you put those 2 together. So what does this tell us? Yeah, you can't just lose Rashawn Slater and just keep humming along. I guess no matter what style of offense you run and how much faith you want to put in Jim Harbaugh and how they run that offense, it's still going to be impactful of a loss. And we're seeing that now. And we already knew things weren't going to be great with the Raiders. I thought maybe the left side of that offensive line would be better than it was, but they're also shifting some dudes around. We thought Jackson Powers-Johnson might spend more time at center than he has. So things have kind of been in flux there and haven't been very steady. And they're not necessarily threatening people too much through the air. Doesn't help that Brock Bowers is hobbled and is playing on one knee for the last week and a half or so. So things, again, just not, we're doing the vibe check here, and you got the Colts on one side, you got the Dolphins on the other. Vegas Raiders offense, they're kind of closer to the Dolphins than the Colts for that matter. So if we're just looking at that from a spectrum point of view, I think long-term, these guys are going to be fine. They're super talented, but this is why it is such a risk to invest highly in a running back, because no matter how good they are, unless they're truly, truly generational, and we like these guys a lot, but we don't think they're generational, you're too reliant on everything around you. And when you lose a top 5 tackle from the offensive line in front of you if you're Omarion Hampton, and you just go to a not great situation with a not great quarterback to kind of really take the load off of you in Las Vegas, like Jeanty, you're going to run into some issues. It's only 3 weeks. Over the long haul, I think they'll be fine, but maybe not necessarily this year even.
Couldn't have said it better. Let's stay on the offensive side, but let's go to a couple big men that I thought were worth a shout out. So Armand Membou, we've talked about earlier in the season after his incredible week 1, but 3 weeks in, we're still having a pretty good season here. 74.3 offensive grade, 73.7 run blocking grade, and a 69.7 pass blocking grade. The Jets needed this, man. I mean, you're a big Olu Fashanu guy, but he's been really struggling as well on the left side. I think he's in the 50s this year through 3 games. Quarterbacks getting hurt, right? Like it hasn't been pretty for the Jets, but at least you come away saying we got a foundational piece on the offensive line. And that's something that a lot of teams would be very happy to say right now.
The Jets have needed to say that for about 6 years now. And so to finally get it, yes, there's going to be struggles. Everybody stay freaking calm because he's going to have some struggles. He's still a rookie offensive tackle in this damn league. But for someone who had traits but wasn't necessarily polished, this is just about the best of what you could realistically expect to see from someone like him, especially given quarterback changes. That's a very understated sort of change that has to be dealt with from offensive linemen, especially a young tackle, when you already have enough to deal with and trying to sort of, again, just through a training camp. It's not like they had a spring ball like you do in college or whatever you have 6 months in advance to learn your offense or anything like that. When you're trying to just nail down your responsibility and your job, but now the cadence is different. Everything sounds different. The operation from the huddle to the snap is different with a changing quarterback. That can screw with you just enough to where that's the difference between a clean enough block and a pressure given up. And so for him to, again, early on in the season, but given where he was on draft night to now, you have to be incredibly encouraged. So if you took Armand Membou early, you chose correctly among the offensive tackles in the 2025 class. I think he's going to be a good one for a while. And, plenty more upside there to tap into once he really gets rolling in the league.
Next guy I wanted to just mention is Tate Ratledge, who's my boy.
Of course you did. Why don't you tell us about Tate Ratledge? I got nothing to say about Tate Ratledge.
He is second in the NFL among rookies in offensive grade, 74.0 offensive grade, right behind Armand Membou, 75.9 run blocking grade. And if you watched any of last night's game, like this is a guy that looks like he belongs, right? And it's funny, right? And I don't want to hype him up too much because a lot of it is situation, right? When we talked about Jonah Savaiinaea and the issues that he's having, and then you talk at Tate Ratledge, that's exactly the point I was trying to make, right? Is like, these are guys that you insert into a good offensive line or, a decent offensive line, and they can survive and do well. But if you put them where they're alone on an island, like if Tate Ratledge was on the Dolphins right now, I'm pretty sure it'd look a lot more close to what Jonah Savaiinaea is putting together than it would compared to what he's actually doing. So that's all I'll say, right? But I am excited about him. If you did take, my word on him, I hope you're kind of reaping the benefits. I will kind of go back and take that one, Ray. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball, and I'll start with a couple I don't know what's going on guys, and guys that we really like. And Abdul Carter is kind of number one, right? Abdul Carter, to me, was probably the best edge rusher we've seen since we started scouting, right? So this is not really talking about like the Nick Bosa guys, because that was right before we started jumping into this. But Abdul Carter, I had him over guys like Aiden Hutchinson and, that caliber of player. 60.9 defensive grade so far, 27.6 tackling grade, and 3 misses. The one concern, right? We were like, he's good at everything, but he's a little small, right? Like he's a little bit undersized. And sometimes you could theoretically get bullied by the stronger tackles running games that you're going to face. I am not concerned at all about Abdul Carter, because I think as he starts to get his feet kind of more comfortable and on the ground, he's going to start showing why the Micah Parsons comps are legit. I do think that he's going to have to figure out a way to take on stronger linemen, stronger run games more effectively. just because the Giants really need him to. They need him to figure that out, and he needs to be a superstar for them.
And he will be. I think when we look back, we're going to say, okay, it was fine. It was fine overall. But I mean, a couple things. I think the biggest thing is the Giants are outthinking themselves. They're playing themselves here. And this is basically what the Cowboys did with Micah Parsons before injury forced them to move Micah Parsons full-time to that edge position and just rush the passer. And then he just blew up the Chargers of all teams. We're just talking about their offensive line when healthy. Early on in Micah Parsons' career, I mean, Abdul Carter played 43 snaps from the box linebacker spots or different box linebacker spots this past week against the Chiefs. What are you doing? His superpower is rushing the passer. If you line him up 5 yards away from the line of scrimmage, you're negating his first step, his get off, his superpower, and just making him basically another guy. We knew it was going to be crowded on the edge for the Giants, but you're really taking away what he does best when you try to just say, well, he's going to be a spy. Well, we're going to line him up at linebacker and then, rush him, through the A gap on a twist or something like that. That works, fine if you do it 15% of the time. But if you're playing 43 snaps from the box and only 13 from the edge, that's not the ratio you want for Abdul Carter. You're just setting him up to fail. You're just turning him into just a guy before the opponent does anything to neutralize his strengths. So you're harming yourself there. So more than anything else, I'm just frustrated with his usage.
The NFL is such a copycat league and it's infuriating that the Giants haven't taken notes on how the Packers have been using Micah Parsons. Like, Micah Parsons came out and was like, yeah, I'm frustrated. I want to be on the field more. I want to be the guy. Like, I am the guy. I should be on the field every snap, which I get. But at the same time, if you were the Giants and you see the way that the Packers are literally just saying, we're going to put you on the field during passing downs, and you're just going to rush the passer, and you're going to disrupt the game so much by doing that. Like, it's easy. Like, it's also easy for a rookie to learn how to do that, right? Like, it's a success story. You set them up for success, and it's frustrating. I think along those same lines, let's go to Malaki Starks, who is one of the players that I thought was an incredible prospect at safety, and he lines up next to Kyle Hamilton in a fantastic defense for the Ravens, but so far this year, a 51.7 grade. This is a guy that is also being asked to do a whole lot of stuff, right? 8 snaps from the defensive line, 45 in the box. He's only 205 pounds, 45 in the box, 143 at free safety, 22 snaps in the slot, and then 8 snaps as an outside corner. So, like, while it's not, it's still very heavy from the safety position, a fourth of his snaps are not at the safety position. And I think, again, you kind of do guys a little bit of a disjustice when you ask them to do too much as rookies. I think Malaki Starks is a fantastic player. And 2 years from now, he is going to be that guy that could be a true Swiss Army knife. But right now, let him learn how to play football in the NFL. I think he's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. But to this point, right, 51.7 defensive grade, you're very disappointed if you drafted him. And we're banking on him being a guy. One more kind of negative, and then we'll go into the rest of our positives on the defense. Kenneth Grant, right? Another Dolphins player, another guy that we talked about. I was very upset with the Dolphins for drafting him. I did not have him as highly as you did. He's still young. Defensive interior is a position that's hard, right? We get it. But I thought that situation would have been an easy one for him to kind of hit the ground running, right? Especially since they've spent a lot of capital on edge rusher, but 38.7 defensive grade and a 35.8 run defensive grade through 3 weeks. The run defensive grade is what is shocking to me, right? Like, we talked about this guy as a huge body that can plug the middle of a defense. He has not been that for them. I am concerned because the comp I had for him was your boy on the Cowboys that you drafted a few years ago. What was his name?
Not my boy, Mozzie Smith.
Mozzie Smith, right?
Kenneth
I saw
Grant
a lot of similarities. Sure, but you also need to, like, be dominant, right? And to be, I think he was like the 13th pick in the draft, felt very, very high for me. But tell me what you're thinking.
Well, first off, it's the Dolphins. So anything that's going to go wrong will go wrong. That's just the way it is for the Dolphins. We've been predicting them slamming into this iceberg for the last 3 years now, basically, ever since basically the Jalen Phillips injury a couple of years back. But to tap the brakes slightly, it is possible that maybe, just maybe, it's a scheduling thing, because in week 2 against New England, I mean, his run defense grade, 69.8, just hovering around that 70 mark overall, which is a quality performance against the ground game. The other 2 games are against the Colts and the Bills. So a Super Bowl favorite and like just the white hot, like comeback team of the year right now in Indianapolis. So maybe, just maybe, we're looking at a rookie in a terrible situation who went up against 2 buzzsaws and had 2 really poor performances, as you might expect against opponents like that. But then when things were just a little bit more of a level playing field, was all right. So I'm going to tap the brakes a little bit there and say he's not playing the Bills and the Colts every single week. So maybe we'll start to see more of a baseline performance from a rookie. Although overall, given the chaos around Miami and the dysfunction among that entire just organization at this point, I don't expect him to really reach his potential this year, or what you might expect from him even in year 1. But maybe you see some baseline performances and just kind of, okay, he was pretty good against the run this week, and that's his archetype. So I'm going to hold steady here and just see what happens probably in 2026. That's enough for me.
Okay. All right. We'll take our time with that one, right? I'm not holding my breath, but you can hold yours. A couple linebackers have been really, really aggressively taking the lead by storm, and that is Jihaad Campbell and Carson Schwesigner. Jihaad Campbell, 84.6 defensive grade and 90.1 coverage grade. That is incredible. We talk about how difficult it is for NFL linebackers as rookies to hit the ground running in coverage. Jihaad Campbell has not missed a beat, looks perfectly the part in that Eagles defense. And Carson Schwesigner, 81.6 defensive grade and 8 defensive stops, which means he had a big impact on that play. 8 of those plays for a rookie. Like, these are very good performances. Rookie linebacker is one of the most difficult things to do in the NFL. I'm personally not surprised by either of these. I think, it's what we saw on tape. I think with Schwesigner a little bit, just considering he really was kind of like a one-year wonder in college at UCLA. But going behind, right, Myles Garrett, Mason Graham, like the defensive line in front of him is performing at an extremely high level. But I think he's kind of inputting just as much as maybe, Mason Graham is at this point in time. So very, very excited for those 2 guys.
Yeah, I think we said as long as Jihaad Campbell stays healthy, this is what you can expect from him, right? If you want to look at something a bit more stable, 72 grade-wise against the run, 8 tackles across, I think it was like 70 snaps or something. I lost my place in my notes, but just kind of even on the more steady side of the metrics here, he's performing just fine for a rookie linebacker where things are tough. So granted, again, you talk about that defensive front in Cleveland. Obviously, the same goes for Philly as well, with Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis in front of him, Nolan Smith, and the talent that they have on that side of the ball. So, again, you surround linebackers in just a really good ecosystem, they can really grow and thrive. And even as young players, we're seeing it with Schwesigner and Campbell. Like anyone else, they're probably going to have some of those dip games for linebackers because that's just the nature of the position. But I wouldn't trust them any less than other linebackers on a week-to-week basis just because they're rookies, because they've proven themselves to be effective in a lot of the steady state metrics that you want to compare between linebackers.
Let's talk about a couple cornerbacks now. So Jacob Parrish for Tampa Bay, 78.5 defensive grade and a 74.4 coverage grade. I haven't watched a lot of Tampa football. Seeing the numbers, I'm very excited. Tampa just seems to have a very natural way of finding these corners and actually getting production out of them. But I think it goes to your point you just made about linebackers. Like, it's an ecosystem that can breed that kind of success in Tampa Bay. The other corner I wanted to talk about is kind of the big name, right? Corner receiver Travis Hunter. how concerned are we with Travis Hunter? So again, this is a guy that during the kind of preseason process, it was basically said that he would heavily be used in the offensive side of the ball. So far, 10 receptions for 76 yards, no touchdowns, 55.0 offensive grade, 55.3 receiving grade. Then on the defensive side of the ball, we're talking about a guy that played 43 snaps on defense back-to-back weeks, 92 total on the season with a 68.2 defensive grade, 66 coverage grade. I think maybe they're asking this guy to do way too much. But, he's probably calling for it as well.
I mean, we play both ways. It's fine, right? And what's so hard about it? It's just they're just bigger, faster, and stronger. But yeah, probably. But this is why I always have that caveat for rookie drafts: never draft, no matter who it is, never draft a rookie for what they're going to do for you in their rookie season, because you just don't know. Especially when you have a rookie who's supposed to be playing both ways, or you're not sure how his snaps are going to be divvied up. Typically, when you're talking about that, you're talking about, oh, well, how much is he going to play out wide versus in the slot, or in line as a tight end versus in the slot? Not how much is he going to play on offense versus on defense. Just two totally different things altogether. So it could be one of those things where in hindsight, we're all like, well, yeah, duh, of course he started off slow. I mean, why didn't we all just say this from the jump? Why did we get so excited? Because it's Travis Hunter. No matter who it is, that type of thing probably takes a bit of time. So yeah, I think he's fine. I'm not concerned. I'm just more, maybe we needed to all just sort of recalibrate our, expectations a bit for what this is. A young rookie who's asked to be playing both ways, and each of those ways is a full-time job. This is the NFL. These are full-time jobs. You're basically asking him to do two full-time jobs, even if snap-wise, maybe it's 30 hours a week instead of 40. Like, no, he still has to learn the defense and learn the offense and rep all those different techniques and then week to week game planning on either side of the ball. That's a whole lot for a rookie to really take in on just one side of the ball, let alone both. So he'll be fine. I think a lot of people in Jacksonville, or a lot of talented players in Jacksonville rather, just need another couple of weeks or so to hit their stride. It's a new offense overall. Maybe as Brian Thomas Jr. can kind of, really get going again, and Trevor Lawrence can kind of hit his stride too, that maybe makes things a little bit easier on Hunter and everyone else as well. I think in Jacksonville, just right now, they're just playing a little bit tight overall. And, maybe that just irons itself out in a couple of weeks. But regardless, I think, yeah, Travis Hunter is going to take time. You can't ask a 21-year-old, 22-year-old to just line up on both sides of the ball and just know everything and just go be great. It doesn't work that way in the league.
I'll be honest, man. I'm a little concerned. I am a little concerned. I am thinking that, seeing that Brenton Strange and Diami Brown lead the team in receptions is concerning to me.
Strange like that. He's good. Good player.
That's fine. He could be good, right? But it's concerning to me when you have 2 first-round pick receivers, one a top 5 pick, and you're not throwing them the football, right? Like that's legitimately concerning to me. We thought that they would complement each other extremely well, right? Brian Thomas is speedster, deep down the field, big body guy, but showed he could do it all at the end of last year, right? Travis Hunter, I thought, was going to be the Garrett Wilson, super shifty, get open quick guy, which meant a lot of like quick receptions and quick wins, and I'm not seeing that yet. So I am concerned. I also am concerned that it seems like after week 1, they decided maybe this guy's a corner, right? Like 40 plus snaps on defense 2 weeks in a row. I thought he should have been a corner the whole time, right? But like, are they now shifting, which means he lost an entire offseason where he could have focused on corner, and now he's being asked to really be more of a corner. Legitimately concerning to me. I think on top of that, I kind of feel for Travis Hunter, because if you're Travis Hunter, he might have been going into this thinking, okay, if I prove that I'm a top 10 corner in the league and I'm a top 10 receiver in the league, when my payday comes, I'm asking for like both, right? I'm asking for money for that guy, and I want to be the highest paid player in the NFL making basically quarterback money. I was saying highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL, but like making quarterback money. I think that's what his mindset was. But if you don't make it there, right, or you get injured because you're playing too much or whatever it might be, like it's going to be 3 years before you get that paycheck. You need to prove that you can be those guys in 3 years. So I'm definitely concerned that, Icarus, you flew too high to the sun kind of a thing here. Like I don't want to see Travis Hunter flame out too quickly in the NFL because he's a player that I think is so talented and still has so much to offer. Last guy I wanted to mention, and I know there's probably one that you want to mention, but Xavier Watts, 71.5 defensive grade, 89.6 tackling grade. I'm going to call him out every time. He has looked every bit of an NFL starting safety. And for all the reasons we thought, preseason, he's a guy that can play all over the field, true Swiss Army knife type player, and can really step up and tackle with the best safeties in the NFL. I'm very excited about the player they got there. I think it was an absolute steal for them. And I figured, right, I'm just going out on a hunch here, that you would maybe want to mention Andrew Mukuba, 67.9 grade, but a 79.3 run defensive grade, has also looked every bit of the part of an NFL starting safety.
I didn't even make any notes about Mukuba because I'm secure enough in my, I don't even have to call that win. I think everybody by now knows I was calling that since like friggin' February. But yes, Mukuba is playing well. The NFL just has to stop letting, like the whole point of the NFL, the whole reason we're looking at the Chiefs and it's like kind of iffy is because they continuously draft late. And when you're drafting late, if you make a bit of a wrong turn, you take a Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you take a Felix Anudike-Uzomah, they don't quite work out. It can set you back. It can set you back. But when the NFL just lets the Eagles like, oh yeah, here's Nolan Smith at the end of the first round. Here's Andrew Mukuba at the end of the second round. Oh, here's Jihaad Campbell. Like, you're giving them, you're not making them pay for being good. You're still giving them players as if they're picking in the top 12. Like, what are you doing? So, when you slot a talented player in a great situation like that, what's happening with Mukuba is what you're going to get. The other thing is he kind of tweaked his hamstring a little bit late in summer too. Like, he might not be fully 100%, or even if so, missed a little bit of time heading into the season, to where maybe he just was a little bit behind and is now going to finally get caught up. So there might be even more to come there, even from just the perspective or grading on the curve of dealing with a rookie safety overall. There might be more meat on that bone that we're going to see in coming weeks, health permitting. So yeah, very excited about Mukuba's prospects there. Again, I'll say it for both of us because you were the Watts guy. People should really listen to us when it comes to this stuff, man. I think we did a good job here. So I'll say that.
What did somebody say to us? They were like, we don't think you guys are great at predicting like start and sits, or I don't remember what it was, but they were basically like, you guys pretty much suck at this, but you guys are really good at scouting. And I'll tell you what, I'll take it, man. I'll take it. Nobody's paying me to do start sits, but maybe somebody one day would pay me to scout for them.
I'm not sure how great the pay is for a lot of that stuff, but they might have told you about your start sits. I just they can't yell at me for start sits if I just don't do them.
Yeah,
so,
fair.
so that's on you, buddy. But yeah, we did call this like you more than me on Watts, but we did say, hey, these are the guys you should be looking at. And so it's good to see that come together. The other thing I will say, a lot of people are high on Deone Walker. Or maybe getting a bit excited on Deone Walker, the defensive interior for the Bills. Just remember, the whole story on Walker coming into the league was he runs hot and cold. So, yes, he had a hot week. It was also against the Dolphins. So let's just, let's tap the brakes a little bit here and be happy he showed what we know he's capable of. But right now, he is barely hitting 20 snaps a game, which is fine. You don't want him playing 40 plus. That's not really his game. But again, you had a hurry and 2 stops in the run game. That's great. But let's see it again against someone that's not the Dolphins. And let's see that over a period of time before you go ahead. And some of you, if you went undrafted, just go drop a chunk of your, free agency blind bid budget on him. Because again, this was always the story. It was never about his capability. It was about his consistency. So,
45.3 grade against Baltimore, 54.9 against the Jets before an 85.2 this week against Miami. He wasn't a prospect that I was excited about going into the season. There was a lot to his game that I thought was really raw, really, really raw. You're betting on size. You're betting on just freak, nature given gifts. And I typically don't do that unless it's so earth shattering that it's almost impossible for it not to work out. And there are very few of those players in this life that we're going to see.
Yeah. That's exactly it. So, we'll see. Check back at Thanksgiving. Maybe he gets, just gets really hot, but let's check back at Thanksgiving. I don't know if you wanted to touch on the Jaxson Dart, the other rookie that we just kind of glossed over here that people are probably yelling at us about.
Sure,
but we were a week off. We did say a couple weeks ago, hey, I think it'd be great if he starts week 5. Well, it looks like he's starting in week 4. So we were just a week off there. But what are your thoughts on that?
You know what, man? I'm disappointed in the Giants for doing this. I think I at least hope that they wouldn't do this if Andrew Thomas wasn't going to come back. If it sounds like Andrew Thomas is going to play, I feel a little bit better about it. If he doesn't, I feel pretty awful. But it's funny because there aren't many quarterbacks, right? Every year, every 5 years, there aren't many quarterbacks that step into the NFL as rookies and look like they are legitimate guys, right? That can contend immediately. Jaden Daniels did it last year. I'm trying to think of like Bo Nix did it last year, but he was like 25. Justin Herbert, I think, did it. I'm trying to think of like the guys in the last few years that like stepped in as starters, as rookies, and looked like legitimately good. There aren't a lot, right? That doesn't happen often. Joe Burrow didn't even do it. I think he had a really rough rookie year. I'm concerned because Jaxson Dart, to me, was never that, right? Like this was a guy that I thought if he sits for a year, I'm really intrigued, right? Like I'm willing to take the bet on him if I know that he's going to go to a team that's going to sit him for a year. And it seemed like that was the Giants' plan. Now we're here in week 4, and the owner called the coach and said, you're basically going to be fired if you don't show me that you can start winning football games. Is Jaxson Dart right now a better quarterback than Russell Wilson? Probably not, right? Like there's a good chance the answer is no. Can he maybe do some more special stuff with his arm because he has a cannon? Maybe, right? And maybe that's going to be enough to show the owner, hey, we really think we got something here. Give us another year and we'll show you that this kid can be really special. But what happens if you do this and you basically ruin the kid's confidence because your offensive line is atrocious for the 4th consecutive year under this coaching staff? To me, it's a coach is just kind of like begging for his life right now, and he's doing it at the expense of a really young kid, and that's kind of sad to see.
Yeah, and that typically never works out well. I think Jaxson Dart does enough well, or has shown enough to where you could probably manufacture enough for you to feel good, or for outsiders to feel good about the direction of where he's going and where the offense is going after 1 week. So I think they play the Chargers this coming weekend. So you could probably manufacture enough. I'm not saying you win. I'm saying you manufacture enough on offense that people go, oh, okay, that's exciting. That's intriguing. I want to see more of this. Then you get the Saints, which was the premise to the original prediction of maybe Jaxson Dart starts in week 5. That's a winnable game. So now you started Jaxson Dart for 2 games. You won one of them. Oh, you're excited. Everybody's feeling good in New York. And then the Eagles come. And then you have a problem. So this is just sort of the last desperate attempt for a coaching staff that needs to save their jobs, and that hardly ever works out. And then it goes into your whole premise and your work done on what happens to young quarterbacks when there's a coaching change early on in their careers, and how does that impact their performance? You wrote about it. It was a great piece. Some of them, we've seen some of them as far as reclamation projects go. We talked about them at the start of this episode, right? Whether it was a Sam Darnold or what have you, like some of these guys do sort of, reclaim their careers later on after a few years, but it's never a good thing. And Jaxson Dart, for the talent that he does have, he needs some stability around him and some development and polish to his game. There's a reason he fell to the mid-20s. Okay, that if he had this talent and was, steady and polished and can read the field consistently well and quickly, he would have been taken in the top 5. So he went as late as he did for a reason. And when you're in a situation like this, those weaknesses, or let's just call them holes in your game, tend to bubble up to the surface because there's nothing around you to compensate for them. You have a poor offensive line. You have one great receiver. You have a tight end. You're desperately trying to get into the flow of the offense. It's just not working. And you don't have the Cowboys on your schedule for a while. So you don't have your get right game after the Saints. So the timing is not great. And I don't think it ends well, at least in 2025, for any of the parties involved. And now you really have to nail the next coaching hire if you're the Giants this upcoming offseason, if you want to salvage something for Jaxson Dart moving forward in his career, because you can't waste another year being surrounded by subpar talent with a staff trying to find their footing or trying to really find their identity and imprint on the offense and on the team as a whole. You got to hit the ground running. And you're already losing that sort of runway you typically have with a young quarterback by forcing him to come into the game or to come into the starting lineup before the end of the first month of his career, when the plan was to sit him for a while. So this is not what you want to see. And it's going to be another obstacle for Jaxson Dart to overcome if he's going to have a successful career.
Yeah. And you touch on something I think is interesting, right? Is like the players that are similar styles to Jaxson Dart that were picked early, to me, are Justin Herbert's and Drake May type players. But then there's the other side of that coin, which is the players that kind of fell into the second round, like the Drew Locks and Will Levis kind of players, where to me, I think Jaxson Dart as a prospect was more towards that second round group than that top 5, top 10 pick group. And I think the Giants probably just said, we need to get a guy. We need to get a guy that we can invest in. So they traded up and got him in the end of the first. But I think if they didn't do that, there's like a pretty good chance he is picked in the same range as those other guys. Saying that, it's not a guarantee that he's not going to go out there and look really good, right? Because this is a guy that has mobility to his game, can maybe open the field up in different ways that Russell Wilson at this stage of his career isn't able to do. So I'm not going to be like totally shocked if he has 2 weeks in a row where he makes the Giants look a lot better and maybe he looks good, right? Like I wouldn't be totally shocked by that. What I'm more concerned about is 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks from now, the offensive line is just in shambles and this dude can't stay on his feet, right? Like that's concerning to me, and definitely don't want, to me, the biggest thing that could go wrong is you injure a guy in his rookie year. Doesn't matter what position he plays. Any player that deals with rookie injuries, I feel like the rest of his career, you're always seeing things like he missed out on this like key development. It's basically like you have a baby and you don't give it skin to skin, right? Like it's like you're not nurturing this child enough.
Is that what this is?
Dude, that's what it feels like. It's like you're not giving this child enough attention at the key moments of its life for it to really thrive. For rookies, it's health and it's staying on the field. Those are the things to me that are just super important. And I really hope that he gets it right.
Yeah. And you box yourself into a corner because if things go wrong, you can't really pull back. You can't put the rookie in and take him out. That's even worse. So you kind of put yourself into a corner here by putting in Dart instead of, I don't know, Jameis or something, because now once the rookie's in and you take him out, that's then you could shock his confidence. And at that point, they probably don't care. They're getting fired. But now his confidence is all over the place. You have no plan on offense. It's just not good, man. It's not good. So yeah, he's swimming upstream right now. And, you hope for his sake he can make it, but it's not a good development for his development. I think we can both agree.
We can. All right, everybody. Enjoy the games this week. Thank you for tuning in. If you haven't yet, give us a follow on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and X at all22_PFF. and give us a review wherever you watch or listen to your podcasts, and have a great day.